Show on YouTube, Into the Fringe, where we discuss lost civilizations, UFOs, cryptids, unsolved mysteries, megalithic structures, extraterrestrials, interdimensional portals, time skips, and more. Don't change that channel, because now you are leaving the mainstream and entering into the fringe. Well, greetings, Cardinal Sin Nation. It is I, Cardinal Sin, and welcome to another episode of Into the Fringe. And today our guest is Mr. Albert Rosales. And we are going to be diving into his book, Humanoid Encounters, The Others Among Us, from 2010 to 2015. Born in Cuba, Albert Rosales migrated to the U.S. in 1966. He had several unusual incidents as a young man while living in Cuba, and such incidents continued as an adult in the United States. Rosales became interested in unusual phenomena and UFOs at a young age, but soon directed his focus to the crux of the phenomena, the humanoids, entities, extraterrestrials, UFOnauts, etc. He began collecting data on such encounters from worldwide sources in the late 80s. He has a current database of close to 30,000 entries, which is updated and corrected daily, and has published 16 books to date. Welcome back, my friend, Albert Rosales, to Into the Fringe.
Good evening there. How are you, Gil? Thanks for having me back.
Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
And it's been a while since we heard from you because we had the Thanksgiving holiday there on your day. But we're going to go ahead and dive into some cases. Now, while some people are rolling in, there were a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. I first ran across Albert's online database of humanoid encounters. And you know how people get addicted to streaming shows and just binge? Well, I was stuck reading these entries for 3 days straight. I could not tear myself away. And I didn't even scratch the surface. So for now, Albert's books are available on Amazon. And remember, folks, stay until the end of the show when we'll be giving away an autographed copy of Albert's book from tonight, Humanoid Encounters, The Others Among Us, from 2010 to 2015. Now, I want to issue a bit of a trigger warning. Albert always brings the spooky, which is one reason he's a fan favorite. But many of these cases, while not involving violence, can be scary and even terrifying. This is not creepypasta. These are actual documented cases. So you have been warned. Now, Albert, while we're waiting for folks to roll in, can you tell us about the different case types, what they mean, where they come from, and which ones you added?
Like you mentioned, I deal with the crux of the phenomenon, the occupants of the entities, close encounters of the third kind, if you will. There's type A, which starts with somebody sees a hovering craft, and there's windows or an opening, and they see humanoids at the windows or at the opening. That's the type A. Then you got type B, when there's a landing of a UFO. And there's entities or aliens seen coming in and out of the craft, out of the object. Then you have type C, was very common when there's a craft on the ground or hovering near the ground nearby, and the witness or witnesses see entities or humanoids near the craft or around the craft doing whatever, but they don't see them going in the craft or out of the craft. Type D, when there's a general UFO flap in the area and there's an entity seen or more than one somewhere by witnesses, not connected necessarily to the UFO, but they assume it has to do with the flap that's going on. Type D. That was not too common anymore, but then we have very common one after that, type E, which is an encounter with an entity with no UFO in sight, not connected with a UFO. Let's say in your bedroom, you're visited by some type of entity, a little gray or tall reptilian or whatever. That's a type E. You're walking in the woods and you bump into a tall entity wearing a silver suit or whatever type of entity. That's type E. Then you have another very common type G, which that's a close encounter of the fourth type, when there's an abduction or a voluntary, when somebody is not really abducted, but they volunteer to go on board. That happens a lot. It's not really an abduction, but it's within the abduction type G group. Then after that, they have type F. That should have been before that, but it's when there's some kind of psychic connection with a craft and the witness, maybe telepathy, but not necessarily an entity that was seen. Some kind of mind. I'm not going to say control, but a connection. And then you have after that, I added type H, which is supposedly a retrieval or a crash of a UFO, or a retrieval or a capture of an entity by either government forces, like in Brazil back in '96, or Boswell, that type. After that, I added type X, which is one of cases that are so out there, so weird, so strange that you can't really pinpoint what they're what they are. They can't. They're not A or B or C or D. So I made type X. A lot of these cases involved possible time slips, time travel, teleportations, all kinds of weird stuff. And then you have type I, which I added now to the files, which involves an encounter and there's some kind of injury or death to the witness or witnesses. For example, the Diatlov Pass, which I think it was definitely connected to UFOs. What happened there? I don't know why. What happened? But
I notice, Albert, lately there's been an uptick in human mutilation cases, or at least in the reportage of human mutilation cases. Have you noticed that?
I have not noticed that, but I know there's been some cases reported out of Brazil, some cases here in the U.S., and there's many cases in which there are people found out there, and they're found either like dismembered or mutilated, and they assume it was a serial killer, but then there's no blood around. It's weird cases like that, which you don't know if it's what happened. But yeah, then I have a final category, which is U, period A, which is unknown animal, when there's some kind of unknown cryptic, not necessarily humanoid, that's encountered, like a big bird, or not Mothman, but a different type of creature. Basically, those are the different types of close encounters of the third kind.
And I wanted to thank you for our giveaway tonight, which is an autographed copy of your book, Humanoid Encounters, The Others Among Us, 2010 to 2015. Very generous. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And before we jump into the cases, I just wanted to apologize for getting the graphic wrong. I'm used to us jumping in 4-year spurts, and this one is 2010 to 2015. So that was my bad. I apologize for that. And with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. And I'm going to let you go ahead and take the first one.
You're going to let me do the first one? Okay, fine. That one's not so bad. Okay, this one's 2010 from Puerto Rico, in a place called Valle de Lajas. And at night, 7:30 to 8 p.m. approximately. One night, an employee at a local farm was doing some late chores near the office building when he suddenly saw coming towards this location in the sky in the northeast direction a large metallic disc-shaped object, okay, which quickly descended over a field near him. Craft descended. The craft was generally oval in shape, composed of two superimposed discs. It didn't have a dome, and it was silver in color, similar to aluminum. He could not see any windows, doors, slots, or anything similar to an engine and no lights, but he could see the object very clearly. He estimated the object to have been at least 30 to 40 feet in diameter, perhaps bigger. It flew above the large pond, and while directly on top of it, it suddenly moved to the left, where there's a slope encircling the pond. There's a slope there that encircling the pond located there. It descended about 20 feet above the ground, right over the slope. Suddenly, from the bottom of the craft descended a human-like figure, who floated in a vertical position towards the ground and landed right on the slope. The witness did not see a beam of light or any other means of transportation that could have been used by the entity. The man-like figure simply floated to the ground and then approached the witness. The witness described the entity as human-like, tall, slender, with a whitish pinkish complexion, and with light brown hair. The alien stood very close to the witness and stared at him intently. The witness felt mesmerized and thought the alien was trying to tell him something. Suddenly, he seemed to have snapped out of it. He snapped out of it and realized that both the alien and the object were now gone. He didn't see him leave, but all of a sudden they were gone. This is from Jorge Martin and Miranda in Puerto Rico. He sent me the case.
And what kind of case is this again?
Type B, because
B.
The alien is seen coming out directly out of the craft. Now, we don't know how they left, but that's what it is. The next one's kind of weird, so I'll let you take that one.
And this is the one with the first graphic, right?
Is it? I'm not sure. No. There's the graphics for the third one.
The third one, okay.
You want me to do the second one and you do the third one? Because the third one's kind of lengthy. You want to do the third?
I can do the second one. That's all right.
Okay, no problem. All right.
So this location is near Porterville, California in January 2010. The time is early morning. A woman by the name of Tammy moved herself and her 3 children into a small farmhouse on the Tula River near Porterville. Soon after moving in, Tammy started feeling like something was watching them and had an uneasy feeling every time she walked by the old barn. For some reason, most of the animals on the farm seemed to avoid the rickety old building, and soon she noticed that a number of her ducks and chickens had started to dwindle, but she could not figure out why. Soon she was going to have an idea why. One night, Tammy and her son were coming back from grocery shopping when, as she parked a car and got out, she noticed movement to her right. Thinking nothing of it, she picked up a grocery bag and noticed it again, this time accompanied by what she described as a very freaky, evil-sounding chuckle. Looking in the direction of the noise, Tammy noticed about 50 yards from her a small humanoid-looking figure, or as she described it, a gnome. The figure was about 2 to 3 feet in height, wore black baggy pants and a gold-colored shirt. The face was partially covered by a long salt and pepper beard, and on top of the head was a long red pointed hat. The nose was large and bulbous, and the eyes were rather deep set. As the figure grinned at them, Tammy noticed that the grin was almost from ear to ear, and the teeth looked to be an ugly brown color and appeared to be either pointed or jagged. Horrified, Tammy dropped the groceries and grabbed her son and ran off toward the house, with the cackling little man right on her heels. Tammy was able to get inside the house and was in the midst of telling her two daughters what she saw when she saw movement outside the kitchen window. Finally, after what must have seemed like an eternity, the figure disappeared and Tammy was able to get the groceries from the car. This was the only time she actually saw the figure, but until she moved out, she would always hear creepy chuckling from the old barn as if it were taunting her.
Weird, huh? So what do we make of this? A leprechaun? An evil
It,
leprechaun, I guess. I don't
it's
know.
pretty creepy, whatever it is.
All right, the third one is that's when you have an image there of something,
Yeah.
entity. Yeah,
We'll go ahead and pull this up
it's a long one there.
and let you get started.
There we go. This is from a place called Wills, Wills, in Queensland, Australia, down under. January 2010, midday. The window was working on a property in Wills, Queensland, Australia, when he saw what he could only describe as another sun in the sky. But this sun appeared to be moving slowly towards him. As the sun moved closer to him, it changed to a red color. And as the object was even closer, he could see that it was a beautiful red sphere. It then very quickly came towards him and hovered to an abrupt stop alongside the witness. It was around the size of a house. It had no lights or seams, just a perfectly beautiful red sphere. He felt a calm come over him like never before. Next, one side of the sphere began to transform to what he could only describe as a round doorway, which extended to the ground. At this point, he started feeling dizzy, and what happened next surprised him. Two men casually walked out of the round doorway and started heading towards him. His first thought was this is some kind of government experimental aircraft because they were wearing a blue uniform like the Air Force in Australia. However, as they walked closer, he could see there was something not quite right about them. Firstly, they were very tall, about 7 feet tall, he figured. And the uniforms were very tight-fitting as it's part of their skin. One had short blonde hair and the other one short light brown hair. Up close, their faces look almost manicured. They have bright blue eyes and a warm smile. Then one of them said to him, "Do not be afraid, please follow us." That's the old standard request, do not be afraid. He was not sure which one of them said it, since neither of their lips moved as he heard the request. At this point, the witness knew they were not human. Despite that, he followed them into the round door. The doorway was like a lift that elevated them up into the sphere. Inside the sphere, the room was lit up, and the light seemed to be coming from behind the wall. The walls looked like burnt glass, and he could not see through. There was a faint smell of rain in the air, like the smell you get when it first starts raining on hot concrete. The floor also looked like burnt glass. There were several humanoids in the room, both male and female, all wearing the same outfits. The females had very long hair and looked incredibly attractive. There were two standing in front of a panel at the far end of the room. The panel appeared to be molded from part of the wall and had some small lights shining from it. Then there were three more off to the right of the room, studying what appeared to be a star chart. That's what he thought it was, that were somehow projected through the glass wall. There was also two more humanoids standing to the left of the room, facing each other, as if they were having a conversation, but without talking. He assumed it was some kind of mental communication. They all looked like a lot like normal people. They were a little taller than most people will be, but not enormous. They all looked like if they could pass as humans if they wished. He was then greeted by a female who was holding a uniform which was placed in his arms, like the one you see, like the one she was wearing, exactly the one she was wearing. She then asked the witness very politely to remove his clothes and put the uniform on. Normally, the witness was a very self-conscious person, but for some reason, he just felt so calm and suggestible that he will do anything, almost anything. It was like he was on some wonderful drug, and every time he did what they asked him, he was given more and more of it. One of the males helped him into the uniform. It was the strangest thing he ever worn. It was a one-piece suit that went from the toes to the top of his neck, with a seam down the side like a magnetic strip. He could only describe the material as like talcum powder. Weird. Once in the uniform, it shrunk to fit his body perfectly. The amazing thing about the uniform was that it will automatically protect the weak parts of his body. The male humanoid demonstrated this by asking the witness to move his neck from side to side, which he could do easily. He then firmly pushed his head to one side, and instantly the material around his neck stiffened and prevented his head from moving. Soon, what looked like a bench seat molded from the glass wall next to him, and the female humanoid who gave him the uniform approached them and asked him to sit next to her. He remembers saying something along the line, "Who are you people? What do you want?" The female humanoid said that her name was Lisa, pretty common name. Also, he doubts it was her real name. Me too. And then she told the witness that they were not from this planet, that they came from what we will call another galaxy that the human race had yet to discover. Unlike the Earth, their planet was the third in distance from their sun. Basically, she said they were harvesting people from our planet to colonize other Earth-like planets as they find them. People were chosen at random. The witness was then telepathically invited to help on the colonization of the new planet. She said that presently they were discovering about 20 habitable planets per day, our time. However, there are many thousands more that are not ready for population yet. The other planets are in what they call a transitional phase. The alien woman then narrated the following story. Many years ago, your time, Earth was once a planet you know as Mercury and was full of life. As Mercury approached your sun, it became uninhabitable, and Venus transformed to become the new Earth. Then, as Venus neared the sun, it also became uninhabitable, and the planet you identify as home now, Earth, sprung to life. And in time, Earth was also near the sun, will also be near the sun, and enter the uninhabitable phase, resembling that of Venus and Mercury. While in this phase, Mars will slowly begin its new journey closer to the sun, entering the habitable zone, and begin springing to life like Earth once did. Jupiter, the gas giant, will slowly shrink to a solid, hard core and become the new Mars. This will then become the new Earth, and so on. Wow. This is a natural process, and it's happening all over the universe, according to the female humanoid. Understanding this process allows us to efficiently discover new life planets. However, before you accept our invitation, we must warn you that the planet we send you will be virtually bare, but you will not be alone. You'll be united with other people from Earth and other planets from around the universe that will be placed there with you to breed and live out the remainder of your natural lives. So this guy was going to go on a one-way trip. In addition, you will be in constant communication with us and will be provided limited tools to help you prepare the planet for your children and future generations. You will not have access to the comforts of home as you know it. We must also caution you to think of your loved ones on planet Earth who will not be joining you. Unfortunately, the dilemma is that if you accept our invitation back on Earth, you will possibly be classified as a missing person, and this way it's very upsetting to loved ones. Because of this, we give you the choice of helping us or returning to Earth. If you choose to return to Earth, now you will have no memory of being here with us. Apparently he did. This meeting, this graph, everything you see here will cease to exist in your brain. The witness then said that he needed time to think this through. She told him he had 1 day, and during that time they will be collecting more Earthlings. So they will be moving the witness to another sector of the craft. The witness decided to return to Earth because of his family. He changed back into his clothing, and then while standing upright, the floor around him slowly began to soften, as if it were molding around his body, and he was sinking into it. He continued sinking until his head was at the floor height, at which time a male humanoid leaned over and waved a device that looked like an electric razor over his head. Next thing he knew, he was outside again, standing in the dirt, exactly where he was when he saw the sphere. But something was very wrong. He could remember everything as for some reason the mind eraser that supposedly they used on him did not work. This really frightened him because he thought that now they will come back for him and he will never see his family again. Then his next memory, he was on some sort of stretcher. He was naked and the stretcher felt warm. 3 humanoids were moving him down some sort of hallway. The hallway looked like it was made out of dark glass, and the stretcher appeared to be molded from the left side of the hallway. He could not move his arms and legs, and he felt like they were restrained somehow, but there was no straps. They moved him into an oval-shaped room. The stretcher then molded into the seat, and he found himself sitting upright. So I guess he was taken back into the craft. The female humanoid, Lisa, entered the room carrying his work clothes. He immediately got changed into them, and as he did, she explained that they were unable to safely erase his memory. She said that this happened with some humans, and they didn't know why. She added that because of this, they will be periodically studying him in the hope of solving this dilemma. She added, "For now, we will take you back to Earth, and with your permission, we would like to organize further tests with you in the future. We can guarantee you will not be harmed during these tests, and in return, we will reward you with journeys across the galaxies and other planets." The witness does not state if he agreed to the deal, but he has stated that he has only released a small amount of the information in reference to the experience. That's a wild tale there, if I ever heard one, but
It
you never
sure
know.
is.
I mean, it sounds similar to the early contactee report,
Oh, yeah,
Well, very, very similar.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
So
what kind of case is that one?
that will be a term an abduction type G. He was actually taken on board a craft. Yeah.
Okay. So this next one from Tennessee, Thompson Station, Tennessee. This is the one with the next graphic, correct?
Right. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's a different alien from the one before. That's for sure.
Okay. So the date is 2010. We are missing our graphic again. This keeps happening to me, and I don't know why.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, so the date is May 2010, and it happens at nighttime. Within a few seconds after the witness, Kathy, had left Sandy Nichols' driveway, she reached the end of the cul-de-sac and turned right onto Saddle Springs Boulevard. She had barely turned right when her thoughts changed from the ghost box session to that of planned events with her family the next day. Another 100 yards or so down the road, these thoughts faded as the headlights from her van illuminated what she believed to be at first a severely malnourished, oversized deer. This deer was standing just off the road next to a driveway. As she drew even closer, she began to wonder if she was seeing a deer at all, but something entirely different. Quote, "When I first saw him, he was down on all fours. His head was shaped something like a chihuahua, but without any type of a protruding muzzle or snout. It was flatter looking. As I got a closer look, I could see no skin or hair covering the creature's body. Its arms, leg, and trunk looked more skeleton-like than anything else. The bone structure was not rounder than the cardboard core on Christmas wrapping paper. And the whole body had this really strange yellow and orange glow, like that, a cross between translucent, neon, and opaque. The glow was really hard to describe. I could not tell if the creatures were self-illuminating or its body was just reflecting my car headlights." Close quote. She was also concerned that whatever this was, would suddenly bolt across the road, so she quickly applied her brakes and slowed her vehicle down to a crawl. This was a very wise decision, for suddenly this creature reared itself up on two legs and ran to not more than a foot in front of her vehicle across the road. But using the word ran is rather an understatement based on Kathy's experience. Quote, "He moved so quickly that it was almost like a blur," she explained. "And there was something else. Even though he was a blur, I could still see his form, but I could not see the upper half of his head. It had not disappeared, but was just hidden from my line of sight because it was above where the roof and the front window converge. And during the rest of my drive home, I was having this back and forth battle going through my thoughts. My logic was trying to convince me that it was only a deer, but at the same time, my logic was also telling me I had witnessed something amazing and very strange, something unknown." And this is something that we hear quite a bit when it comes to abductees, when they cite animals either in their window or across the road or across the street. They see a large owl, and then later it occurs to them that it was far too large to be an owl. Deer are often reported also, usually with very large
big eyes.
black eyes. Yeah. So this one is kind of a typical case. That doesn't make it any less creepy, but it is a pretty typical case.
Okay, here's the next one, the graphic for this one here. This is kind of weird. This is reported. It happened in 2011. There were several incidents that occurred in Death Valley, California. Nice place. A man and his sister reported what they termed were contacts with beings from parallel universes. This all occurred in Death Valley National Park. They will go down to the park quite a bit, even before their encounter. Around 2007 or so, he began to get sick when they will go to the park. He will get nauseous, and they will blame it on car sickness, but it only happened in the park. They kept guessing about air pressure, etc., but could not come up with anything. A year or so later, while driving along the salt flat, his sister began to see an image of a thing that looked like a tall, skinny vase. I guess that's the image right there. Stuck in the ground like a post. He had a triangle-shaped flaps, and if punched through from the inside with as it's punched through the inside with a can opener. There were one above another, constituting 8 in all, equidistant on 4 sides of the device. Red light came from under the flaps, which pointed downward, and white light came from the top of the base or the object. The thing was round and had a B-shaped top. Over the next year, they saw a lot of visions and will go into trance-like states, sometimes mumbling strange words. A recurring character in her vision was a tall man, about 7 or plus feet tall, in a coarsely woven robe reaching to his ankles or thereabout. His eyes had black irises. His hair was straight and black, cropped evenly just above the shoulders. The thing that stood out was the size of his eyes, about twice the size of a normal person. He resembled statues of the pharaoh Akhenaten in many ways. As time went on, his sister saw other people that looked like the man in the robe, but more human looking and smaller. Eventually, one night at Badwater Basin, the sister began to see the man's face. They walked out of the salt flat and she tried speaking to the vision she was seeing. Nothing happened at first, but then the man started speaking in some odd language, very fast and excitedly. Their next encounter was 2 weeks later. The sister got sick and disoriented in the valley as well, and the encounter at Badwater made her pretty sick. This time, when she saw the vision, the man spoke broken English. He said his name was Kahat. He told her about his ancestors coming to the world. He was on from another and installing many devices like the one she saw on parallel worlds in the area 5,000 years ago. So I guess they were from a parallel existence. The problem was that the devices worked on a machine-brain interface, connecting people's brains and other machines together across various worlds. The main purpose of the machines apparently was to allow people to travel, as he put it, between parallel worlds. What happened was that the brain interface was designed to fit Cahal's people, his people, not the local people. Found out that the cluster of parallel worlds and it resulted in the killing of worlds and filling others with sick and dying peoples, depending on how compatible they were with the machine. That's why they were getting sick, I imagine. The brother kept a journal of the encounters for a while, which is available in the source link. And that's the image of the what the men looked like, the Akhenaten pharaoh.
Let me pull that up. It's difficult for me to tell where the images go, if they're the
Yeah, it's right.
before
It's
or
right
after.
under. Yeah, it's right under the stick and the desert, the black image. But this is a kind of complicated chain of events. There you go. That's what you said the man looked like.
And I do want to go ahead and share another screen, because we have a new development for the Into the Fringe merch store. All things Cardinal Sin are now at gillstore.org, not gillstore.com. And so I'm going to go ahead and share that, and we will get a better look at what that looks like.
Very good.
Because we have more to go here. So, of course, you can get your Into the Fringe shirt here. You can use the code EARLYBIRD or GILL15 at checkout for 15% off your order. And the regular store is here, and we've got all of the Into the Fringe merch. Has this big Cardinal Sin, what they call a hero link at the top there, and there's shirts for all of my shows there, and we've got stickers. We have a special commemorative shirt for our Mike Barra Into the Fringe episode. You've got your bloody microphone shirt, which is when I bang into the shirt and I say bloody microphone. And Critical Hit, the new gaming show, is represented here with a shirt, mug. You can even get a little cover for your iPhone there, and a pennant. And so we've got all kinds of great stuff. You've got a die cut sticker, and this art is all made by the incredible Fet for Hire. So I want to extend a thank you to Fet for Hire. And there's just plenty of stuff you can grab. T-shirts by Douglas Nelson, and all kinds of groovy stuff. If you're a Midnight to Midnight fan, you can grab yourself a shirt. We've got great Into the Fringe mugs and other merchandise, pint glasses, and so on and so forth. So just remember, for your holiday Cardinal Sin merch, you want to go to gillstore.org. And we will go ahead and get back to our cases. So this next one is mine, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't mean to send so many images, but the ones I was picking had images, so I said, "Oh, I might as well send them." So
no, images are good.
Okay,
images are good.
That one has an image also there.
Yep, I am on it. All right. So this one, let's see here. I have to share the screen and then, of course, get back up to where I was. I apologize. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but there is the image for this one. And it moved away again. Gosh darn it. One more time.
One more.
Kind of image heavy.
Yeah, it is.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, so the location here. Oh, I lost it again.
Well, it's been seen several times, so here we go. Let's keep our fingers crossed this time. There we go.
There we go. So the location is El Tabo, San Antonio, Chile. The date, February 2011. The time is 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. The witness, 27-year-old Paulina, was sleeping in her bedroom, which she shared with her younger sister, when suddenly in the middle of the night, she was awakened by a powerful whitish light that entered the bedroom through the door. At the same time, she becomes totally paralyzed and is unable to move. She was now wide awake, but could only move her eyes. She watched in horror as three very tall humanoid figures with thin bodies and whose heads scraped the ceiling began to approach the bed where she and her sister slept. One of the beings stood by the headboard and gently touched the witness's forehead. At that same moment, the witness remembers seeing a bright light and heard a sound resembling a popping balloon. After that happened, she lost all her memory. The next day, she heard her neighbors talking about the sighting of a luminous object that was seen hovering low above the trees nearby. She said that the beings exuded a strange beauty and caused her to calm down. Their bodies were covered in a tight-fitting dark garment, which was almost skin-like without any seams or zippers. Their eyes were somewhat larger than that of humans, and their heads were completely hairless.
There's a type E, what I call a bedroom visitation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Creepy. Okay, the next one, also an image on the next one. There you go. This is from Eagle Butte, South Dakota, near Eagle Butte, March 5th, 2011. The time 23:40. This is an employee of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe Reservation. A security guard at a casino was driving home. That's the image, alone after work, when he began seeing red lights resembling softballs, and hundreds of them, that were apparently spinning around the car. This while driving south on Highway 20. The red balls, or spheres, seemingly hundreds of them, kept pace with the vehicle for a couple miles, They never did get very close to the car and remained at about 2 car lengths away. After a couple of miles, the car began to slow down. It slowed down to about 40 miles per hour, and it will not go any further. Then the red lights just disappear in plain sight. The car then sped up back to 60 miles an hour. He then reached to where a gravel road meets the highway 63. He had turned into Highway 63 at this point. One of the wind blocks, experimental stations, or soil erosion experimentations location there. At this point, he began getting goosebumps all over his body, a sort of tingly cold feeling all over his body. He then saw this thing on the side of the road where the gravel road meets the main highway, and before he knew it, it was by the car. It then reached in and touched the witness' head through the windshield and ran his hand down his witness' back. His back got extremely hot. He described the creature as having an oblong-shaped head, a real thin body, thin arms and leg. It was translucent and glowing like a very dim light bulb, and he could see through it. His eyes were the size of humans, and it had a really long nose and huge mouth. Its arms were like sticks, and his really were like stick-like arms stretched out, which also glowed softly. It was about 4 foot tall. At this point, the witness saw another creature at the other side of the road, on the left-hand side. He described the second creature as horrifying, with a beast-like wrinkled face, squat in appearance and about the size of a goat. It was glowing reddish brown in color. As soon as he saw the second creature, he seemed to vanish. The first creature apparently remained by the vehicle for about 10 minutes, as the tingly feeling will not go away. The witness eventually drove away and began to feel better as he approached a bison farm about 50 miles from Eagle Butte. According to his wife, he was very agitated. He was in a very agitated state when he arrived home. I would be too. Yep. So we have another creature touching a witness. Maybe they want to see how we feel, or we want to feel like.
Or maybe it's affecting the witness.
Could be.
What kind of a case would you call that, Albert?
Also, we have the shiny spheres that follow the vehicle that were small, maybe orbs. I still categorize that as a type. I made it a type D because they were like those orbs in the area that's around the same time the creatures was there. So it could be a type E also. Yeah. Encounter with a humanoid without an obvious object or UFO nearby.
Okay. So once again, I'm going to line up the graphic here. All right. And this one, I'm going to have to share first and get the image there second because my computer doesn't want to behave. My parents used to tell me to behave, and I said, I am Have. I am Have. There we go. So the location is between Chicora and East Brady, Butler County, Pennsylvania. The date is March 18th, 2011. The time, early morning. A local businessman was driving down the road when from a quarter mile away, he observed something on the right side in a grassy area. He first thought it was a deer, another deer case.
Yeah.
The driver stepped on the gas to move closer and get a better view. From about 50 yards away, he observed something that appeared to be hunched down and then stood up. The driver then observed a very tall, muscular creature. At this point, the driver had his high beams on and watched as the creature walked in front of a yellow reflective road sign, then crossed the 2-lane road in 3 long steps and continued into a wooded area. What he saw was a humanoid figure that stood at least 8 feet tall and appeared to have smooth, leather-like skin that was of either a darker tan or light brown color. The creature never looked at the witness and was only observed from its side. The head appeared to be flat in the front section and then rounded out. At the top back of the skull, it was like one of those aerodynamic helmets. The top was not quite a point, but looked like a ridge on top of the head. The face was flat and the eyes were not clearly defined, but the man thought that they might have been pointed in the corner. The ear that was observed on the left side was long and flat and came up and back and was pointed backward like a flap. The arms were muscular and a little longer than that of a human. The hands looked more like a claw, but the number of fingers was unclear. One physical trait that did stand out were the extremely muscular legs. The witness stated that it was hard to explain, but the legs did not move like that of a human and, quote, looked like they bent backward, unquote. The witness also saw what appeared to be wings on its back, which were tucked into its body, with the wingtips extending toward the side of its head. No unusual sounds or smells were noticed during the observation, which was estimated to have been about 7 to 8 seconds. As the motorist approached the location where the creature entered the woods, it could no longer be seen. The next day, the witness decided to drive back to the location of the encounter to look for any evidence. The ground conditions were not suitable for tracks, and nothing was found. The witness did, however, measure the road sign that the creature had walked in front of. The sign was just over 8 feet high, and the head of the creature was estimated to have reached about 4 inches over the sign. And I noticed that the source of this was Stan Gordon.
Stan Gordon, yeah.
Very famous researcher in both Bigfoot and UFO cases. And this is a type E event.
Correct, yeah. The next one is deals with a new type of phenomenon that we call black-eyed kids, whatever they might be.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from Tucson, Arizona, April 23rd, 2011 in the afternoon. The main witness, her husband, and their 2-year-old son went to a used bookstore 2 hours from their home on a Saturday. While there, she followed her son into the children's playing area. He rounded the corner to the aisle with the books, and there saw a girl standing, not moving, a little way down the aisle, staring in their direction. Then her husband walked up to them. As he came closer, the girl did as well, following behind him. Her son ran off toward a table, and her husband followed. The girl walked up and got right next to her, within inches, almost touching. The witness started to feel extremely uneasy and moved away to where her husband and son stood at the table. They were both looking down at a Mickey Mouse doll, which she tried to talk to her son about. As she looked down, she saw movement coming up behind her out of the corner of her eye. It was the girl. She noticed her clothing looked from the 60s, and she looked very out of place. She was also overdressed with multiple coats with multiple coats on in a normal temperature environment. She walked in a circling pattern with her head down in a predatory way, the way a panther stalks its prey, according to the witness. As she stared at the girl, she walked slowly. She distinctly remembers that the girl did not make a sound when she moved. She thought it was out since she had a lot of clothing. She thought it'd be because she had a lot of clothing on and a bag with her. Her eyes were all black, no whites in her eyes, no pupils. She stared coldly, devoid of emotion, and you could feel the evil radiating off of her, according to the witness. The witness remembers that as she made eye contact with the girl, she had a very distinct feeling that she was not human. She had a feeling that she was something evil in a human shell. She felt the most amount of terror and the most threatened she had ever felt. She also felt like she was the food that she was the food at the bottom of the food chain, and she was her next meal. Creepy. The witness definitely felt a fight or flight response after she was able to pull her eyes away from the girl. She remembered thinking that she had to get away and had to protect her family. She tugged on her husband's shirt and grabbed her son and started to pull them away. Her husband asked why. She said they needed to just go. She also remembered thinking that it was very important that the girl did not know they were leaving because they were afraid of her. They went to the other side of the store. Her husband walked off to the electronics section, and the witness and her son stood in front of the bookshelf full of board games. There was an aisle right behind them for magazines. Then the witness heard a man that was leaning down towards her son say in a very low tone, "I see you. She can't hear you, but I can." Too scared to turn around, she grabbed her son and dashed away. She now believes that the man and the young girl were there together. She never saw the man, she has heard him. And that's a creepy encounter with whatever that was.
Yeah. And I know this isn't a photo of that exact encounter, but
No, just a drawing. Yeah.
but it looks kind of androgynous, and I wonder how many of these black-eyed children that are reported have an androgynous look.
True. Yeah.
And I remember from a previous case today, you mentioned that that the alien said that they were harvesting humans,
Right.
but not in the human mutilation sense, sort of an intergalactic zoo, it seems
Right.
like.
They were maybe collecting humans to populate other worlds. That's what
Hmm.
the alien said, basically.
Okay, let's get to the next graphic here.
This is a very famous and unusual event that occurred in Missouri.
And I'm still having issues here, but we will soon get that right. And this is a case from Joplin, Missouri, where I've been. It's not too far from where I live. Well, I wouldn't want to walk there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So the location is Joplin, Missouri, May 22nd of 2011 in the afternoon. And on that date, Joplin was devastated by an EF5 tornado, so-called the Finger of God. According to a number of people, especially children who nearly lost their lives, the first responders were not limited to police, firefighters, and EMTs. Within a few days of the disaster in Joplin, children had been telling adults about the butterfly people they had seen during and after the storm, who had in some cases saved their lives. There were many stories. Most commonly, a child would see a butterfly person, humanoid but with colorful wings, hovering over them and their adult guardians as the tornado approached. Some children thought they were angels. Others talked about an indescribable presence. Whatever they were, the children and adults always emerged unharmed, in most cases from impossibly dangerous situations when it came to the storm. So moved were the people of Joplin that they commissioned mural artist Dave Lowenstein, who worked with 15 local artists and up to 200 people, including many children, who volunteered by submitting drawings. The mural, including renditions of the butterfly people, now adorns the side of the Dixie Printing Building in Joplin. Perhaps this is one more clue in our contention that, despite parasites and scary cryptids, the ultimate message of the paranormal is one of unity and love.
Well, I
And
felt that after the creepy black kid encounter, we should have something more lighthearted. You know what I mean? Yeah.
and I'll let you mention the source.
Paul and Ben Eno, Behind the Paranormal. I'm not sure how to pronounce that first person there, but it's,
Dr. Wahaba Hadia Al
Hadia
Muaid.
Al-Muaid. Yeah, and Paul and Ben Eno. I've been in their show a long time ago.
And that's Behind the Paranormal 2, Bigfoot, Mothman, and the Monsters You Never Heard of.
Right. Yep. Okay,
All
here
right.
we go. The next one, finally, there's no image there, so
Yay.
smooth sailing here. This is from 2012. The place is a place called Medonsley, County, Durham, England. 2012 at night, the witness, a Mr. John Chadwick, while in bed, saw a little man loom out of the darkness. The little man seemed confused upon seeing the witness. He did not see all of the little man in the dark, just his head and shoulders. He leaned forward to get a closer look at the witness and then recoiled in some kind of shock and vanished. It was almost as he had realized the witness could see him. On that same day, the witness had a Reiki healer give him an overwhelming amount of metrotonic energy that day, his one and only time. The little man, according to the witness, had jet black eyes and a large round head with a tiny face. He looked wise and very intelligent. He looked like he could have been middle-aged onwards. The little man was the size of a toddler. The face of the little man was like that of a human with dark eyes. He had a nose, lips, and ears. The witness had not been sleeping. He had been sitting in bed after a long day in the dark, just thinking about the day. The only light in the room was coming from the moon through the curtains, and so he could see it only partially materialized from the shoulders upward. The strange thing is, if he had legs and a body like a human, he will have to be sitting on the edge of the bed or standing through it. So he would have been standing through the bed or sitting on if he met whatever he appeared at a location which the bed was also there. So maybe he was like interdimensional. Who knows? He had very pale, but not like a European. He was very pale. I'm sorry. But not like a European. He was actually far more of a very pale gray tone. So the witness, this is from the page Modern Fairy Sightings. So they think he could have been a member of the Fae that suddenly
like
appear
a fairy.
Like a fairy, yeah. That suddenly appear in this guy's room.
And what kind of case is that then?
Type E, another bedroom visitation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, the next one. Here we go.
Every time I do that, it loses the image. Why do you do these things? Why? Okay, so this location is Jerical, Overa, Almira, Spain, January of 2012, time 2300 hours. A family traveling on an isolated road between two small towns had just rounded a curve when they spotted what appeared to be a pair of luminous eyes staring at them in the distance. Approaching the area, their vehicle got to within a few meters of a strange crouched creature that was on the middle of the roadway. It was motionless, with one of its long dangling arms on the road. It appeared very intelligent as it stared at the witnesses with a pair of large, round, luminous eyes. The only feature that they could see was a pair of large, pointy ears. Moments later, the creature slid under the embankment railing and disappeared into the nearby forested area. Around the same time, a local youth reported seeing a remarkably similar creature drinking water from a local creek. He also had the impression that the creature was very intelligent. And that's a type E encounter.
Yeah, strange humanoid encounter on the roadway, which happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is kind of creepy, also kind of long too. We're going to Italy now. This is in the Friuli region in Italy. The exact location when that was not provided. January 27, 2012. And there's a graphic there also. The witness, a 53-year-old anonymous man called Omega by the source. I guess he wanted to be anonymous, so he named him Omega. Had gone to the banks of the Tagliamento River in order to catch some local game birds called ceceni, members of the Turdidae family of birds. He arrived at the banks of the river around 4:15 and began setting up the nets and traps. He waited, sitting behind a large stump near the water. When it was already dark, at one point he heard a growl like a behind him, which he assumed was a dog growling. He couldn't see anything at first, but then saw behind some thorn bushes 2 red things, he described, which at first he thought was a reflection of something. Instinctively, he threw a rock towards the tangle of brambles. Immediately after, he saw something black jump over the thorn and move away in the opposite direction. He assumed it had been a wild boar, very common in the area. When he thought he had a fair number of birds, he drew in the net. He had taken a lot of them, so he grabbed one of the sacks and began placing the birds inside. He wanted to clarify that the birds were used only for lure, not for killing them. Thanks a lot. He took out his cell phone to look at the time. It was now 7:25. At this point, he had already put on his night vision device that he had brought with him, so he could see better. Suddenly, there was a deep and glacial silence, which happens a lot during close encounters. In fact, before the birds in the net had been screaming, and now they were completely silent. He took out a phone again to call a friend for assistance in transporting the birds, but to his great surprise, the phone was now completely discharged or drained. As he filled the sacks with birds, he suddenly noticed a greenish light overhead that seemed to be descending towards the ground. Immediately after, he heard a loud thud, and he wondered if the light had been a meteorite. Even though he was wearing the night vision device, he didn't see anything. He tied up the sack and sat behind the large stump to wait. Moments later, at about 60 to 70 meters away, he saw something coming towards him, which at first he thought it was some sort of large ape. There's a creature there. Something that as it got closer, the witness realized it was something that couldn't exist. He walked continuously, and as he did, he was looking right and left the whole time, moving his head right and left. According to the Omega, the witness, the creature, as he called it, was at least 4 meters tall. That's over 10 feet. He had deep red color legs. He was endowed with a physique with long arms equipped with 4 fingers. And as he moved forward, the legs suddenly took the color of the rest of the body, which was ash gray. The head appeared normal in size. However, it had large black eyes or was wearing a pair of black goggles. On the back of his head, he had a crest-like protrusion that went down his back. He kept looking to his right and left. And when it arrived at the net, the birds were now completely silent and still. At this point, the creature was about 4 meters away from where the stump with a stump behind which the witness was now hiding. The sight of the creature made his heart beat wildly. The feet had 3 toes, which clearly resembled the feet of a hen. Moreover, where the heel would have been, he had some sort of spurs. Unfortunately, the witness' only means of protection was a machete and a knife inside a backpack that was lying on the ground 15 meters away. The creature knelt in front of the net, still containing some of the birds, and resting his hands on the ground, touched one of the birds with a finger. The bird immediately screamed. At this point, the creature stood up and headed for the grove located across from it. The strange or crazy thing was that when his hand came in contact with the net split in 2 parts as if he had been burned by the creature's hand, not revealing any resistance. And also, incredibly, as the creature advanced into the grove, it left an opening approximately 1.5 meters wide in the shrubs that had not been there before. In other words, the bushes and shrubs he came in contact with along his path were not bent, but literally disappeared, creating a real corridor. That's weird. As the creature walked, it did not make any noise. In short, nothing could be heard. The witness, Omega, then lost sight of the creature, and hoping that the worst was over, he began filling another sack with birds. As he got ready to leave, he heard a noise, like someone running on gravel. He immediately thought that the giant creature was back. When he put his night vision back on, he saw a creature that remotely resembled a dog. It was hairless, gray in color, about 1 meter tall, with a particularly elongated head, about 40 centimeters in diameter and 20 centimeters high, equipped with 2 large ears. He had a very high torso, unlike a dog. He had 4 legs with knees similar to that of a human, and 2 blood red eyes, resembling red laser pointers. Omega was motionless, still hiding behind the stump, with nothing to defend himself. When the creature approached the birds, these began to scream, and the creature stopped and took the stance like that of a hunting dog. In the proximity of the birds, it was about 3 meters away. It was about 3 meters away from the witness at this point. Suddenly, the creature shifted his attention to the witness and started growling. And the witness could now see that he had large, sharp teeth, about 5 centimeters long. Oh boy! Even though he was terrified, he was also angry. I found the courage to throw stones in the direction of it. At this point, it moved away towards the area where the witness had parked his vehicle. So he was finally alone and relaxed a little bit. He grabbed his knife and cut the net, after which he grabbed the backpack and the 2 bags containing the birds and headed toward the embankment. Suddenly, after walking about 10 to 15 meters, Omega felt his strength leaving him, and a feeling of tiredness and drowsiness invaded him. He no longer had the strength to go forward, and he started to feel sleepy. He managed to move about 50 to 60 more meters when he saw a family of wild boars approaching. 2 adults and 3 juveniles. One of the adult boars started moving towards him, growling in an apparent defensive pose. Omega no longer felt he had the strength to defend himself. Between the boar and the witness, there was only a furrow on the ground, and just then, at this point, the ugly-looking dog-like beast appeared. It jumped on the boar and grabbed it by the neck, causing it to emit excruciating screams. However, it did not eat the boar, but merely tore its neck and belly apart. Immediately afterwards, it grabbed the entrails with his mouth and turned to look at the witness. The witness, using the bit of strength he had left, quickly left the area, leaving behind the strange beast and the dead boar. He felt stunned by the cold. In fact, it was about 5 degrees below zero, and the ground was covered with frost. So to warm up, he decided to urinate on his hands and rub it on his arms. Omega finally managed to drag himself to the car and drove away from the area. He did not see the dog-like beast of the giant humanoid again. He will have another encounter in February 2013 with a different type of creature.
Oh, wow. I can't wait.
Yeah, really. Weird.
Definitely weird.
Yeah. And that's the image of the dog type creature.
Yeah.
And the next one, got it.
Sorry about that. There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you
Okay.
fine.
All right. And what kind of case was that?
Type E, encounter with a creature in a isolated location. No UFO seen, except there was a light that was seen earlier, so I don't know if it was connected. Could have been.
Okay. So for this case, we need to share the screen.
I believe the
Don't
next
know why.
case, there's
Turn
no
that one
image
off.
in that.
But so this is in Mortigliano, Udine, Italy, from February 11th, 2012, time 23:20 hours. A chemical worker, Leonardo, who lives in Codiopo, was returning from Palmanova to Codiopo late at night when he arrived at the new roundabout at Mordianglo. There were several cars parked there. The young man exited his vehicle and saw a strange creature walking along the road. The creature was very tall, perhaps to 4 meters in height, 11 feet. The witness grabbed a flashlight and shone it on the creature. He saw on the back of the creature and noticed on the back of its legs what resembled a tangle of tendons. His head had a rounded shape and a cone shape on the top. He tried to use his cell phone to call and take pictures, but it was useless. The creature walked down the street, oblivious of the cars. The witness saw a car with a family in which the mother was trying to conceal her 2 children from the creature. The creature eventually disappeared into the darkness.
There you go. That's weird. That's also in Italy. Kind of resembles the one that was seen earlier by the guy by the river.
Yeah.
The boars.
And that's a type E as well.
Yeah, type E. You get to notice that a lot of these entities are humanoids and not really short grays. They're like giant. Tall,
yeah, as
massive.
we're getting closer to the modern day, they're all over the place.
All over the place for sure. Here we go. That's the next one there. Kind of a funny looking reptilian.
Yeah.
We're staying in Italy. Italy was busy that year. Rome, Italy. March 29, 2012, around 10:55 a.m. Plain day. A young witness was walking his dog on a meadow, which was located close to his home, when he suddenly saw in the distance the figure of a man coming towards him. It says Rome, Italy. Doesn't give you a specific location, but I guess it must have been one of the suburbs. He did not think much about it since the area is used by many pedestrians as a shortcut to a nearby bus stop. He briefly looked down at his dog and then looked up again to see the person approaching him in a very strange manner. For he seemed like the humanoid figure was floating above a cushion of air and was moving at a very fast pace. The witness also realized that the figure was very tall, taller than the nearby metallic link fence that measured 2.50 meters in height. As the strange figure got closer, the witness realized that he was not a human not a human in appearance. He had large slanted reddish eyes and a scaly skin like a snake. There's the image there. The witness immediately ran to the bus stop with his dog to try to find some other witnesses, but the area was strangely deserted. This is another thing that happens a lot. He stopped by the bench and turned around to look at the strange reptilian figure, but as he did, the creature seemed to evaporate into thin air. He further described the creature's skin as dark green color, made out of large scales. Suddenly, his dog, apparently, and finally sensing something strange, pulled the witness to the house, his hair standing up on end the whole time. The only time his dog had reacted in this manner before was in the presence of other dogs who had tried to attack them. Soon after the disappearance of the strange being, the witness spotted a mysterious yellow helicopter flying low over the area. Back at home, he was terrified, and he cried in despair and called his aunt as his parents were not home. And according to the summary here, there's a report of a similar encounter in the area back in July 2010. So who knows? Maybe it was connected. The next one doesn't have an image, so it's all yours.
Okay, and this one is in Caracas, Spain, in the Madronara province. The date is April 1st of 2012. The time is 4:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock a.m. Carlos Rivera, a member of the folkloric musical ensemble Medina Azahara, was returning from a concert on the N-432 road in a minivan on his way to Cordoba, accompanied by two band technicians, 3 men in total. Carlos, who was sitting in the passenger seat next to the driver, suddenly at a location about 15 kilometers from Zafra, saw coming out of the embankment only a couple of meters on the right side of the road a strange humanoid figure that approached the passenger side window where Carlos was sitting and briefly looked inside at the astounded witness. The humanoid was described as about 2 meters in height, very thin, with a quasi-skull-like face. Its lower jaw was open widely, displaying a huge cavernous mouth. It also had luminous dark yellow eyes. It had something thick wrapped around its neck like a lifesaver and was moving its head in a circular motion as if there were stretching in its neck. At the same time, the rest of its body seemed to tremble. It wore a white tunic-like garment that reflected the headlights of the van. The driver panicked and accelerated from the area where Carlos watched as the strange humanoid disappeared in the same direction it had come from.
I just noticed that, a lot of these encounters deal with beings over 2 meters tall. A lot of them. Strange.
Yeah, there are a lot of tall ones today.
Yeah.
And just an observation, during the 80s and the 90s and 2000s, there are a lot of reports of grays, and it seems to be the general consensus among researchers and many abductees that the grays are a biomechanical life form, that they are engineered life forms, not necessarily androids, but they don't have any emotion, and that the taller aliens are sort of the flesh and blood, if you will, and they seem to be the ones in control, while the small grays do all the grunt work. If someone urinates in fear on board a saucer, for instance, they're the ones that clean it up. They do all of the medical techniques and experiments.
The hard work. Yeah, I heard that before. That they're either biological machines, like you said, or AI type machines. Closely resembling androids.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one we stay in Spain. This is between Trujillo and Torrejon el Rubio in Spain.
Easy for you to say.
April 6, 2012, around 2300, 11 p.m. at night. Two families traveling in separate cars were on the C524 road began to see a strange luminosity in the distance that they could not identify. Suddenly, from the second car, the occupants see that the first car abruptly brakes and stops in the middle of the road in order to avoid a strange human. This was in order to avoid a strange humanoid figure, at least 2.5 meters in height. Another giant that floated just above the ground on the side of the road. Strangely, they could not see any feet on the figure. The man-like figure had blondish hair and wore a tight-fitting sky blue diving suit, which was slightly luminous and with an inscription similar to a rhombus in the chest area. A rhombus is like some kind of geometric figure. I'm not trying to remember.
It's like a rectangle with slanted
Okay.
sides.
Okay. One of the occupants of the second vehicle stared squarely at the humanoid's face, who stared intently back at her. To her horror, she realized that the figure seemed to lack facial features and seemed transparent but deep at the same time. Both vehicles drove quickly away from the area. All the witnesses suffered from nervousness for the next several days and were not able to sleep well. Another roadside encounter, which makes it a type E, again, encounter.
And earlier, before we started the show, Albert, we were discussing some cases that you had experienced personally. I was wondering if you might treat us to some of those today.
Most of them when I was young in Cuba. Maybe I was 5 or 6, maybe less, 4 years old. One of them that I don't know if I ever told you that this is more like a paranormal type, but I always have this in my mind. I never forget it. I was in my house at the city of Santa Clara, Cuba. I lived with my parents, of course, and I was in the middle of the night. I will wake up. I was one of those that wake up in the middle of the night and try to go sleep with my parents. And they kicked me out most of the time. So I woke up and I walked through the hallway, and there was a mirror. I looked up at the mirror, and there was the face of a man staring at me. It looked like a one of those Spanish soldiers, conquistador type, helmet with a beard, black beard, and I know he had a helmet on, and he was looking down at me, laughing or smiling. Scared the crap out of me, so I ran to the bedroom and woke up my parents. They told me I was crazy, I was dreaming. That's one of the first things I remembered happened in that house. And another time, I vaguely remember waking up in the kitchen, sitting in the table in the kitchen, and there were several figures sitting with me. And these figures were human type, luminous, tall, and they were sitting around, and they seemed to be talking about me or discussing me. And some of them were talking to me, and we discussed something that to this day, I don't remember.
In Spanish or telepathically?
That I don't know. I think
Okay.
they either spoke to me, or I heard the words in my mind, but it was in Spanish that I remember. And everything that we spoke was erased from my mind. I don't know what happened after that. But they gave themselves a name. They told me they were something. And to this day, I can't remember that name they gave me. They said they were. Around the same time, there was a sighting of across from my house. A craft like an egg, shaped like an egg, was flying over some houses, and the people. There was a blackout that day in the vicinity, in the area, so everybody was sitting outside, and they saw this craft flying over the houses across the street from my house, and everybody started screaming that it was Yankees or the Americans. Because it was during the very close to the Bay of Pigs thing, so everybody was paranoid. So everybody stare at it, and I stare at it, and then most people just forgot about it. But I followed it because it was flying very low, and I follow it until it hovered in a field behind my house in the corner. I lived in the corner, and I stood under it, staring at it for a while. And the next thing I remember was my mother yelling at me, asking me where I'd been, and I felt like I was all wet for some reason. It hadn't rained or anything like that. And to this day, I don't remember how the craft departed or what happened. I've never been regressed. I would like to do that once, but I never have, for some reason, I haven't never had the opportunity to do it. I would love to do it.
So if you had the opportunity, you would be hypnotically regressed to find out what happened.
Yeah, I would like to remember more of those episodes. Another episode was a huge ball of fire hovering in the street right outside my house. I'm not talking about a small, sphere or orb. I'm talking something huge, and it looked red, fiery, like a fire. Right?
How wide would you say in diameter?
20 by 10 or something like that. It was very big. Yeah.
Wow. And what happened then?
I don't remember after. I saw it, and after that, I don't recall. Like, see, there's a lot of times in my life where I see something, and then I don't recall what happens next.
So you have some suppressed memories.
I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as Wayutan says, you have to be really careful in getting a professional when you're hypnotically regressed, someone who knows what they're doing, someone that isn't going to put ideas in your head or ask you leading questions.
True. Maybe, like he said, maybe I don't really want to remember, but I don't think they were negative experiences. I don't think. I don't have that feeling that they were negative.
And are there any cases that are a little bit newer that you want to go over? We have about half an hour left. Anything from the book that you want to go over, or any newer cases?
Like from the 20s or like 2020 or 2021 or something like that?
We have a really good picture of your shirt.
Oh, there you go.
Swaziland,
yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been there, but I thought it was cool. I believe I...
And we still need you to tilt the camera just a little bit higher.
Sorry, there you go. Yeah, I'm looking for newer cases here. Hold on a second. I remember I had.
And also, if anyone in the chat has questions for Albert,
feel free.
This is a good time.
Sorry, I'm looking at the other computer. That's why I do that. Sorry. I got two computers in front of me. Okay, here we go. This we're dealing with I have the image in front of me. You don't have it because I didn't send you this case. This is a different group. This is from 2021.
You can share your screen if you want. Go down to where it says present in the middle and click on that, and it'll say share screen.
Okay, here we go.
And greetings, Cams, Crash Courses.
Whoa. Why did I do this? Yeah, because is it at another computer, so I can't.
Oh, you can't share the screen of a different computer.
Yeah,
you have to run dual displays to do that.
Right.
But you can tell us what it looks like.
I could turn it around and maybe you guys could see it. I don't know. Can you see anything there? No.
It just
I
looks
don't know
like
if it's
a
light.
ridge line on fire.
Yeah, well, this is a flying humanoid case from Puerto Rico, a place called Calle. And the funny thing about this case, there's an image there of a helicopter apparently chasing this humanoid and firing what appears to be some laser beams at it without hitting it. Didn't hit it, it missed. Anyway, there's a family that were coming back. This is around March 2021. They came back from they had gone out that night, and there was a power outage when they got home. They looked up and they saw flying above them a figure. They say it was like a man, dark in color. Didn't have no wings. It was no wings, just flying around, moving from place to place. Sometimes we'll go to the top of a roof of a house and stand there for a while, for a minute. And then soon after that, the helicopter appeared. They said it was like a dark helicopter, possibly military. It appeared to be chasing the figure, the flying figure. Like I said, it fired some kind of laser beam at it, and it missed until the figure flew away. The thing about during that time in Puerto Rico till now, there's been a lot of flying humanoid reports happening there.
Sure.
Most of them have been like winged type, not like this one here. This is the weird thing about this type. This case was that it didn't have any wings. It was just a figure. It will fly around horizontally most of the time, and then will be vertical when it would landed on somewhere until it was chased away by a helicopter. That's another weird thing that they could see the occupants of the helicopter looking down at them, so they ran back in the house.
Do you remember? Gosh, I don't know. Maybe this was in the 90s or the early aughts, but we had a lot of reports of humanoids, flying humanoids, and there was footage taken often, and it was almost like a humanoid sitting in a chair, just going slowly, maybe above the highway or above the road,
or sitting on some kind of platform,
yeah.
And some of them looked like they had backpacks too, and they
Mm-hmm.
were not your normal backpack. They will be seen really at really high altitudes. And there were in the early 90s, middle 90s, a lot of reports like that.
You don't
I
seem to hear
recall.
too much about those anymore.
No, we do get a lot of flying humanoids, but the winged type,
Yeah.
winged humanoid types. Yeah.
What else can you pull up there from your bag of tricks?
Let's see. Let me do it again.
It could
Okay,
be
this
the
is
Silver Surfer says why you tan.
Galactus, SNS Herald. There's a report from Switzerland back in what year was that? 96 or 95, where they saw a figure of a man, a humanoid, flying on top of a board. It looked like a board. So I mean,
Really?
that's when science fiction becomes reality.
And where was this?
In Switzerland.
Uh-huh.
Can't remember the name of the play, the year exactly. I think it was either 94 or 96. And a lot of people saw the figure. And back then there were not that many cell phones, so they couldn't videotape anything. But
Right.
they said it was a tall man-like figure. Wasn't silver, but it was definitely a man-like. And it was flying on a board, up moving here and there, different directions. And there's been other reports in Europe describing incidents, entities or humanoids flying on boards. Yeah, on a board.
Crazy, man.
Let me see if I get a. Recently, there was a case in Brazil describing a type of entity that you don't hear too much about now anymore, but this guy reported encountering. Where is this? This is in September 2022 at the state of Rio Grande do Norte in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it in front of me, but I could give you a brief synopsis of it. There was a guy he was hiking in a isolated area near some woods, and he heard a noise. He looked and he saw a figure. He said he was over 2 meters tall, another giant. But this figure, he said he looked. He called it the Beehive Man because he was wearing some kind of suit that had those like the Michelin type creature. You know, the Michelin ones that they wear some kind of rubber suit with rings
Oh yeah,
around it.
I remember there are a
And
lot of
yeah,
Michelin men back in there.
reports back in the 70s.
Yeah.
But this was September 2022, a couple months back or 3 months ago. And the creature was tall, and he had like his head was covered by more rings, and he had like a visor in the middle, white. He couldn't see any eyes. And then from behind that figure, a smaller one appeared, much smaller. And this one had wearing the same type of suit, Michelin man, and he had two round eye holes in the face. He couldn't see any other features. He didn't know what to make of them. So the only thing he could compare him with was to a beehive. You know, those beehives that you see hanging with the rings. So he ran from the area to get some other witnesses, but when they came back, whatever they were gone already. This was in Brazil.
I don't know what to make of that. That's
The beehive type, or
yeah. I
the
mean,
Michelin type.
are the Michelin Man type encounters some sort of environmental suit? Do you think?
It has to be a suit, a protective suit or some type.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Like a
what
spacesuit almost.
yeah, some kind of suit that for some reason this type of alien needs to wear when he is here on Earth, and for some reason they're not as common anymore. Maybe their watches ended, except for this case now, a recent case, and there's another case from 2009 that I know about, but there haven't been that many lately. That type of humanoid.
Yeah, I remember in some of our previous shows, there were a lot of Michelin Man type encounters, and if you sort of take all of them and match the attributes that do match, I mean, you have to account for different people and different areas of the world and different backgrounds, right? But when you take all the commonalities together, they seem to be kind of like the Michelin Man, and it always struck me that those had to be some sort of environmental suits, especially this one when you mentioned the eyes that came out, the big eyes.
Yeah.
That these would seem to be some sort of viewing goggles or you know just as an example from Earth, maybe a starlight filter or night vision, something like that.
A lot of these Michelin Men type were originally seen in France back in the 50s during the 54 wave, and there was also a report in Canada in 1950 of a Michelin type figure entity. And then there were still some later on. The 70s there were some more. Kind of dropped off after a while. Other humanoids took over. Maybe they're
if
type.
you're one of the people that ascribes to the ETH, the extraterrestrial hypothesis, there are a lot of researchers that seem to think that we're being visited by 9, maybe 18 different races of extraterrestrials. And like I said, in the 90s and in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, there were a lot of reports of grays. And then, of course, you have the hybrids, and now you have the hybrids, the aliens that look 100% human but have all of the neurological control over us that the gray aliens did, or the tall
right.
aliens. And Dr. David Jacobs' work, goes back to what he calls the insectolins, or the insect or praying mantis like aliens, which seem to be their regular form. And they're life-sized or maybe even slightly larger than human-sized praying mantises, and then their experiments with hybridizing with humans would turn into the tall gray, and then maybe they would make a hybrid with a human, and they would continue to take abductees to harvest the sperm and ovum, and just continue to breed them so that they looked more and more human-like, but that they retained all of the mental control of the insectilins. And now the abductees that their whole life had been abducted for these hybridization experiments, now that they're postmenopausal or in later life, they've been moving into apartments 2 or 3 at a time. And these same abductees wake up in the middle of a Walmart next to a humanoid looking, a hybrid, a human looking alien. And they don't understand how to buy clothes. They find themselves in these apartments, and they've bought furniture and it's all piled up in one room, and they don't understand where to put it or what function it serves. They ask really crazy questions like, what is a TV for? Who gets to watch TV? How long do you watch TV?
What is coffee, or stuff like that?
Yeah, they don't understand where to put the silverware or what it's for, which promotes the idea maybe that they still don't eat, even though they look like they could.
According to Jacobs and some others, that they're trying to replace us. They're trying to replace humanities and
infiltration
and create another race.
Maybe
better keepers of the earth, hopefully.
Well, yeah, but what about us?
We'll join the dinosaurs. There you go. Yeah, I know what you mean. But it's been there's been a lot of civilizations on Earth before us that have disappeared.
That's true.
And others, maybe they didn't know. I don't know, man. I hopefully we'll learn from those mistakes, and we'll be able to move on spiritually and fix all the problems that we have.
Philip Blair mentions, I used to go with the extraterrestrial hypothesis because that's what we were all taught in our entertainment media. And that's certainly the truth.
Well, I think there's a combination of extraterrestrial, and there's interdimensional. And I think there's more interdimensional than extraterrestrial. And I think there's a conflict maybe between both. Who knows? But I talked to a Russian researcher that claims that the insectoids, or the praying mantises, have whole colonies underground in some places in Russia and stuff like that. So I don't know. Who knows? I know the reptilians have been seen underground a lot too.
Well, allegedly, yeah. It's hard to say for sure. And I just wanted to mention we need everyone to stick around until the end of the show to win an autographed copy of Albert's book. And you must be present in the chat to be eligible to win. So you can go to this link here to enter yourself. And we probably have another 5 minutes left for people to join and get onto the spinner wheel. And it just, from my personal experience, and I'm an experiencer, and everybody that's familiar with Into the Fringe knows that, that I have, I've had some strange experiences when I wasn't drunk or high or on drugs or anything like that. And one of them was I was reading in my bedroom, and my television was at the sort of on the top of the dresser at the foot of my bed, and about the size of a quarter, I see this gray alien head, and it starts moving this way, almost like Pong, and so I'm talking to the television as if it's a two-way radio, because why not? I'm seeing weird shit on my TV.
This head was in the TV.
Yes, when it was off.
When it was off, okay.
It was off, and so then is projected an alien head, like a holographic projection, is projected onto my TV, and it's the standard gray with the big black eyes, and it's rotating 360 degrees slowly. And I say, oh, come on. I know you don't actually look like that. Show me what you really look like.
You said
and
that? Okay.
It changed. And the biggest change that I noticed was it had very wrinkly, almost elephantine skin. And it looked like it was very old, instead of that smooth, almost featureless exterior that the biological or the android-like grays have, and I didn't think that was what they actually looked like either, but that was as far as I was willing to go, because I was getting really freaked out at that point.
I heard that type is an ancient race that's been around forever.
Really?
That's what I heard. I read that somewhere, and somebody told me. Yeah.
And Wayutan is asking for one more case before we end. Do you have one more?
One of the ones I sent you, or any?
No, one of the, because we went through all the ones that you sent me.
Okay. Oh, there's still some more. Let me look it up a minute. Anybody in the chat that has experiences themselves, they could always share, if they like.
Philip Blair says, I don't know if I'm an experiencer, but I grew up with experiencers in my family.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And Canadian Spider-Man says, I think Graham Hancock said some things similar to what Albert has been describing. And Ari says, Graham Hancock for the win.
Let me mention one more case, a recent one. The last one that I have in my database, actually, so far, as far as year, it's September 27, 2022. This is also from Brazil, a place called Pinhal, San Antonio.
That's not that long ago.
No, not long. And this is a witness named Sergio Santos was arriving at his residence, which is in a rural area there. And when suddenly his van suddenly accelerated abruptly and stopped a few meters from the house. At this point, he saw three very tall phosphorescent beings, glowing beings, standing to his left about 10 meters away. When he took his cell phone to film them, the cell phone was suddenly snatched from his hand by an invisible force. He also spotted an elongated object that he said looked like a TV remote control or a cigar, orange in color, that was sitting in the background in midair behind the figures. At a certain moment, the beings disappeared and the object moved quickly away. This case is still being investigated, according to the Brazilian researcher that sent it over to me. But it's interesting, He tried to take a picture of that with his cell phone. He was snatched away. These entities, they don't like to be photographed, just like the Sasquatches.
Well, and Wayutan mentions Cardinal Sin. Oh, come on, man. That was the perfect chance. You should have set up a camcorder and started interviewing. Well, I didn't have a camcorder. That was before the advent of modern smartphones. I used to carry a disposable camera. You remember those, Albert?
Yeah.
You could buy them at the store, and then you just give the whole thing to the lab.
The thing is, when something like that happens to you at that moment, you don't know how to react.
It's the last thing you think of. Even if
You
you have
have
a
a
camera
camera
in
with
your
you,
hands.
you forget it. You ain't gonna use it. You're like those people that said, I don't know, but it's like you don't know how to react. You don't know what you're gonna how you're gonna react, or you never react the way you supposed to. That's what
Yeah.
yeah.
And the times that I've been in my car when I had a camera in my car from back then, I was driving and I couldn't, take a photo,
Right,
So
driving, yeah. Or you
it's
try to take a photo and it comes out messed up. Most of them, or who knows. Yeah.
and Wayutan goes on to say, I have one that my aunt and my grandfather experienced. That's interesting.
Tell me if you
And
want to share it, to send it to you in an email, and you can send it to me.
yeah. And I wanted to mention, of course, before we start the spinner wheel, this is the URL for my tip jar, because I don't get to apply for monetization again or appeal again for my monetization until December 31st. So you can go to paypal.me/Gilbavel. It's 100% secure. I don't see any of your credit card information. You can send me $1 or $2, buy me a coffee or a pizza or whatever. It's completely secure.
You're still fighting that monetization thing.
Yep. But this time I have a good feeling about it. I think I'm going to get monetized this time.
All right, maybe they'll give you a retro.
Well, no, they've been
No
running
retro.
ads on my videos, and they just keep 100% of the money. So, and ladies and gentlemen, we have to go ahead and take away the enter the giveaway banner, because Canadian Spider-Man is here.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Hey.
hi.
Albert, thank you so much for joining us again. It's a pleasure. Really.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And Merry
Nice.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. It looks like you've had your ears lowered.
I did. Yeah. It was just too hot to have that much hair. So, yeah.
Well,
much easier this way.
you look good. Looking good.
Thanks.
I like your shirt.
Isn't that a nice shirt?
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm gonna have to get something like that. Okay.
Yeah,
I will.
I think we can arrange that.
Oh, and happy Hanukkah, Gil.
Oh, thank you.
Your
Thank
hat.
you.
Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, this is a
It's
Hanukkah tree as well.
5 days away, but
Oh, it is 5 days away.
yeah,
Oh,
this year is one of the years when the 8 days of Hanukkah fall across the Christmas holiday. So
yeah, wow.
it'll be cheers and season's greetings for everybody.
Season's greeting.
Yeah, when I say Merry Christmas, Gil, of course, I also mean Happy Hanukkah.
Oh, of course.
There's not many Jewish people out in the little village I live in, so I'm not used to that, but I will get used to it.
There's always one somewhere.
It's a Hanukkah piñata.
There you go. Actually, I remember when one time when my dad took the family to Israel, my sister was competing in the Maccabea Games, defending her discus championship. She was, I think, the 7-year champion of discus in Israel, and this is a weird thing, but we were a long way from the stadium where we parked, so we hopped onto the bus that was for the Mexican athletes, and we just rode with them, and they gave us some funny looks, but other than that, I guess it was okay. So,
yep. All the Mexicans here are super friendly, I gotta say.
International cooperation. That's what we need.
That's right. I'm pretty sure that Hanukkah begins on the 20th, but I will double check that. In any case, let's go ahead and bring on the wheel. And we have everybody on the wheel that applied. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and give that sucker a spin.
Okay, here we go. Cardinal sin. 1, 2, 3. Let's spin the prize wheel.
And our winner is Joe Salazar.
Joe Salazar. All right. Congrats. Have your people contact his people, and he'll contact you.
Well done. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So, Joe Salazar, here's what I need you to do. Send me an email.
Your address, and then they will take.
Send me an email with your mailing address to gil@sunflower.com. And I will send your details on to Albert, and he'll autograph the 2010 to 2015 book and send it your way.
Alrighty.
That's good.
So congratulations.
Yes. Well done. I'll just show you the back of the shirt real quick, if I may,
Yeah, please.
and promote
Oh,
your.
and Reese says it's the night of the 19th, sundown on the 19th. I think my calendar has it there. Yeah, that's a fetching shirt. It's too bad it's only available to mods.
Hey, Gil, so send me the information, and that person that said he wanted to share that experience of his grandparents, tell him to send you an email and to include, if possible, approximate date and location.
Do you have an email address that you want to put into the private chat, and I can share it with the regular chat?
Yeah, let me put it in there. Anybody could email me at that email. There you go. Send it. Garuda.
And I don't want to take any more of the spotlight away from Albert, but thank you very much for joining.
Thank you,
us tonight,
Canadian
Albert.
Spider-Man. We appreciate your service, sir.
Oh, are you kidding, man? Anytime. You, the way you treat your wrenches, you're damn right.
Is that
Least
your
I can
Christmas tree back there?
This is the you can only get Christmas piñatas in Mexico, but the kids almost prefer this one.
All right, nice.
It's full of candy.
So Albert's email is garuda79@comcast.net, and
anybody who wants to share an experience, they could contact me at that email.
And Philip Blair says, "Did I hear Garuda?"
Yes.
It looks like he's got a bird.
A little Garuda there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, well, Albert, thanks again for a wonderful episode. This was another creepy one. Lots of information packed. Just a great episode, and look forward to having you again.
Pardon me for my reading was kind of sloppy today, but I'll try to improve next time.
Well, we'll get there. By the end of the series, we'll get there.
All righty. So we'll see you, Gil. Take care.
All right. And for Canadian Spider-Man and everyone in the chat and Albert Rosales, it's Cardinal Sin out.